Okay.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks to Rabbi Reese for covering yesterday. Today is Daf Tazayin. Says Kedushin. So we got to the two dots. Please. Shtar. When it comes to a shtar, so that is used. So we're talking about, I guess, to acquire an eved. So it says, I think it was right. So it says to acquire, I think an eved ivri, right? It is with a shtar. So minalan. So what is the source? So Amar Ula, Amar Kol. The pasuk says imacheres yikach lo. It says, excuse me, by Am Ivriya, right? So it says over there. So he is. So if he does yud, right? He has an Am Ivriya and takes her in marriage, and then he takes another wife. Basically, he treats them equal. That's the pasuk. So he says that if he takes another wife, in addition to his Am Ivriya, so therefore there's a comparison made with his other wife that he takes regularly. Just like a regular wife, he could be kind of through shtar. So to an Am Ivriya can be also acquired through shtar. So this works well according to the opinion, right? That an Am Ivriya, that the master writes it. In other words, the master writes the shtar to acquire the Am Ivriya. So according to the opinion who holds that the father writes it, right? The father, when he's going ahead and selling his daughter, right, to the fellow Jew. So because that's not similar. Because in a case of a marriage, the husband writes it, to the wife. In the case of the Am Ivriya, if you hold that the master writes it to the Am Ivriya, so it works well. But according to the other who says basically it's the seller, so what are you going to say there? So who writes the shtar Am Ivriya? Rav Huna Amar Adon Kaiso, he says the master writes it, and Rav Chisda Amar Av Kaiso, the father writes it. So Nichel Rav Huna says that the master writes it, El Rav Chisda Ma'ikla Meimar. So Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar Kol, the pasuk says, Leiteitze Ketzeisa Avodah. So a person writes, she does not go out like other avodah. Right? So it says she doesn't go out like other avodah. Aval says, but she does come in kinyan avodim, like kinyan avodim. Well, my nihu, and what is that? That is shtar. So therefore, just like that other avodim are acquired through shtar, so too the Am Ivriya is acquired through shtar. Why didn't you say that she doesn't go out like avodim, but she is nigas gavadim my nihu chazaka for the chazaka? Right. In other words, basically performs such work or labor that shows that she belongs to him. So the pasuk says, right? You shall, I guess, bequeath them down to your sons. Only them. Only those and others are not. Maybe it's the other way. In other words, only them avadim shtar, but not others, and therefore shtar wouldn't work by Am Ivriya. So haksiv avadim. No, it says they don't go out like other avadim. So why you want to include shtar next to chazaka? So misava shtar the havi the rebuy shechein matzia b'bas Yisrael, because we find that the shtar is used by ishus. It can be used by bas Yisrael to go ahead and divorce her, right? We find that it's used over there. So the Gemara says, because chazaka is used to acquire the nechasim of a ger. So the Gemara says, no, nevertheless, we don't find it by ishus, and therefore shtar is more likely to be included. Or since it's the following passage, it says right, and then the next passage, then it says over there. So therefore, since they're next to each other, so therefore it's coming to teach you that since this is referring to going out by shtar, so too that is referring to a shtar. And a side point, Rav Huna, hi, so what does he do with that pasuk? That she does not go out. That let's say there's some sort of injury, like an eved goes out. My could say Savadim, so Shmamina party. So we come to over there to learn both cases. Then it says back in the Mishnah. I'm just looking back in the Mishnah, right? So that was right. We said Evad Ivri Nikna Bekesef Ashtar Bekainas Asav Ashanim Uviyev Begirin Kesef, right? And the Seirlav Am Ivri Ashkainas Asav Besimanam. Fine. So now the next part is what? The Kainas Asmo. So how does an Evad Ivri acquire himself? The Kainas Asav Ashanim. The pasuk says Shei Shanim Yavod B'Shiz V'Chulei. Right, 6 years you work, and the 7th year you go. Then you go free. Yeah. Yeah, no shacks. Right. Yeah. It's just a big misconception because you confuse 6, right, and it's also like 6 on, 1 off, just like Shemitah is 6 on, 1 off, and so you have fine. Then it says, all right, so it says 6 years work instead of the Shvis of a Yovel, and by Yovel, the Chassid pasuk says, "Eshnas haYovel Yavodima." Up until the Yovel, that he works for you. However, once the Yovel, that sets him free. The Girin HaKesef, and also you can work off the amount. And Amachisi, the pasuk says, "V'hefte." So it says, then you base. What is it? V'hufta. Is it v'hufta? Fine. Which pause was his verb? All right. All right. 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 So it says over there, so we learn from over there that you can go ahead and diminish and minimize, you get time, you get credit for time served or whatever it is, right? For work served, and therefore then he goes redeemed. So you see he is redeemed with, as the years go by, he gets credit for, for the money then. Satana, the kindness atzmai bekesef uveshav kesef uveshtar, and he acquires himself with kesef or something equal to money or the shtar. So bish lamad kesef chsim amei kesef miknasa. And over there it says for the money if that was acquired, and shav kesef nami because it says yashiv gulaso, right? Because the pasuk says right yashiv gulaso. So from over there. And Amar Rachmana is, what does that mean? We already know is money, so it must come the rabbi Shavah Kesef to teach you that something which is worth money is like money that you go ahead to acquire. Ella high shtar, but what is the shtar in order for the evet to go free? If it's basically like an IOU, like a promissory note, right? So I know Kesef, that's Kesef, right? In other words, if the evet will give a shtar, it says, okay, I owe you $1,000. And therefore, I go free for $1,000. So that's equal to Shavah Kesef. It's Ella is just shikr. Rather, it's a shtar shikr. So shtar lamali. So why does he need a shtar? Right? Knows that he writes a shtar to the evet, says you go free. Why does he need a shtar? Let him just say zeal. Inami bidina. Or let him say in front of 2 you should go free, or sit in front of base and go free. So Marabba says it must be the evet ivri. Gufo kanui, right? He must be. He's owned. His goof is owned by the master, right? Or else the master could just say, "Hey, if he didn't own him, it was just a money thing. Then he could just release the note." But the fact that he can't just release it and say, "You don't owe me anymore," or "You go free," it must be that his gufo kanui. And therefore, right, if the debt that's owed to him, he can't just be Michael in order for him to go free. He actually has to need a shtar to go ahead and free him.
So the Evan Ivri has to have a shtar also.
No, if he wants to be free through shtar, right? In other words, if you go ahead and you pay, then that's a way to free him.
Yeah,
right. But the master, right, can't just say, I'm releasing you without any payment because his gufakani, he needs a way for that transaction to be chal, and therefore you need a shtar. Now, you say of Am Ivriya, so you say, in addition, the Am Ivriya over the Eved Ivri, right? The Am Ivriya goes out with with physical maturity signs, once she turns the age of which becomes an arrow. So you say of Am Ivriya. So Amar Reish Lakish, right? So she grows physical signs, 2 hairs. So Amar Zagas, Am Ivriya Kavis Asma Mabisa Sa'af Mishus Adon Kavachemer. So we're going to discuss this now. Let's say So remember, she's 8 years old, right? She is sold by her father to a master. Okay, and she's going to come back in 4 years, right? When she turns 12, she goes basically back, to the father's jurisdiction, which is a Nara. So let's say the father dies while she's under the master. So says Reish Lakish, she should go free from her father's death, from a kavachayim, right? Am ivre koines asma b'misas ha'av mishus adon mikavachayim. So if she becomes 12, she doesn't really leave the jurisdiction of the father. He still has control over her different rights in terms of payros and stuff. Nevertheless, her work, right, or her ma'aseh del,
can also be
right,
paid for.
right. Nevertheless, nevertheless, once she turns 12, right, she has simanim, then she leaves the master. So misa. Right, so death. So if the father dies, she leaves the father's jurisdiction. And certainly, if the father dies, she should leave her master's jurisdiction. So that was his kavachay. So Meisave Rav Yishia, I look at a Mishnah. Mishnah says he say love Ama Ivriya Shekanes Atsa B'Simanim. One over the Ama Ivriya has over the Evet Ivri is that she would leave with Simanim. V'Misa, if it's taka true that she would leave with the death of her father. Nisi Navi Mrs. Av. Then it should list Mrs. Av in there, right? It shouldn't just be Simon. It should be Simon and Mrs. Av. So God says, no, Tana Bashir only listed one, but left out multiple ones. Okay, so Mrs. Av is one, according to you. What's the other one? So Maishir the Hashir. What's the other one? So Shai Mrs. Adon, the master dies. So Imish Mrs. Adon, Lav Shiru. That's not really left out. Came on the Ikanami V'ish, because that would apply the same. No, if the master dies, she leaves the master's jurisdiction. So too, if the Evet Ivri's master dies, a male Evet Ivri he would go free also if the master dies, right? So that's not. It's supposed to be Yisera Olaf, something extra about Am Ivriya. So Elo Nisni, so I should state it. So Gemara says no. Tana Davar Sheyesh Lekitza So Katani, Davar Sheyesh Lekitza Lekatani. Something that is set, now something that's bound to happen, that is set, has set time. It is written, right? But something that's not set, i.e., like the death of her father. So therefore, those items will not be listed in the Mishnah. Only something that has no, that is not, has limits.
Who knows when it's going to
right, or if it will happen. But simanim, right? But for her to show physical signs, 2 hairs, right? That doesn't have a kiss. It's written. So Rav Safra, so says Rav Safra, we're going to do this a couple of times. So simanim, right? It could happen earlier, it could happen later. We don't know when. Right? This is a large span. So where says no, I'm Rav Safra. No, there isn't a time. No, yes, it can happen when she's 12 or 13 or 15 or 17. That could happen then. But there is a time for earlier. In other words, it's too early. It's not considered to be a simon, right? It's considered to be some sort of defect, a shuma, some sort of what's it called, like a wart or something like that, where the hairs grow. The kids are lamata, as we see from the Tanya, as we see from this brisa. Shuma, right? A 9-year-old that shows 2 hairs, that's considered to be a shuma, right? That's considered like a type of mole. Ben tas shanim, so that's under 9, right? Ben tas shanim v'yayimechad ad ben yud beis shanim, but from 9 to 12 v'yayimechad, right up until then, the aiden ben shuma, the shuma that mole is still there. It's still considered a mole, and Rabbi Yisrael Yehuda simon. No, that's a simon because it's stayed the whole time, so therefore maybe it's physical maturity. But you give a shana v'yamecha, but however, it's after enter 13th year, then Divya calls simon. Everyone holds it's a simon. So you see over there that it can't too early is considered to be a too early is considered to be a right. So there are limits as earlier, so therefore it's considered to be a davar sheish l'kitzva according to Rav Safra. So Mason Rav Sheish, as Rav Seish asked Rabbi actually, which is going to be in the bottom. Shimon Omer Daled Menikin Laha. There are 4 categories of those who we give gifts upon with their departure from servitude, and Gimel Beish. 3 apply to a male, the Gimel Beisha, and 3 apply to a woman. In other words, they overlap. 2 of them apply to both men and women, right? And right now, Mistama, the 4 are, which is the Rashi goes to the bottom, right? you work 6 years, you get gifts. One who leaves for Yovel gets gifts. One who is a nirtza, a person whose ear punctured, right? And if the master dies, right, he gets gifts. And also, and that only applies to a man, not a woman. And the simanim and physical maturity also gets gifts, and that only applies to a woman, not a man. So 3 apply to a man, 3 apply to a woman, and there's 4 total. But you can't say any of them have 4. This is not male or female, don't have 4, I guess. Because there is no, right? A man does not go free with, through physical signs of puberty, right? And a woman cannot get her ear punctured. Now, if it's taka true that when the father dies, she goes free, say when the father dies, she should get gifts. So if you say this, that's the case. So tani v'shir. So if you say that is the case here. So it said no, we left out others. It says the word 4. When it says 4, it's very specific. It doesn't mean there's 4, but there's additional ones. You said 4, it means 4. So maybe you're only saying 4 things. If you're saying we're only writing things that has a set time, right? 6 years is a set time. Yovel is a set time, right? Those things are set times, right? But things that don't have a set time, we don't write. Puberty, right? Physical signs don't have kitzvah. Victoria is written. And the Gemara says, like Rav Saba just says, in other words, that there is kitzvah in terms of when the physical signs could start, halachically. Right? The death of the master, right? For when the nirtza goes free, they not kitzvah. That is not set. He might die, he might not die. Right? Victani, right? And therefore it's written. So misada nami Victani. And if you want to say they like kitzvah, Victani.
It wasn't written in the price.
No, it was one of the 4 included.
Oh,
that's
one
of the Dalet Manikim. Right?
Oh, I see.
So they like kitzvah, Victani. So misada nami Victani. Right? So where it says, no, we don't write the death of the master, right? So then if that's the case, if the death of the master is not included in those 4, so it wasn't the 3rd case we had the Rashi listed, right? The nirtza that goes out with Mises Aldoy. So Ella Arba Maidi. So what are the 4? Right? That these cases here, we're actually going to see this price at the bottom of the Amud. What are the 4? Shunim, right? You give them gifts when you work 6 years, the Yovel, and when they go free for Yovel, you give them gifts. The Yovel Sheritzia. And also a Yovel when the nirtza goes free, the Ama Ivriya and the Ama Ivriya. And therefore, and the Yovel Shenirtza only applies to a male, and the Ama Ivriya, the Simanim only applies to a female. And Hachi Nami Masad is also logical to say in that case, Victani, Seifa, Iata Yachal Omar Arba Be'echad Me'en. If you ain't Simanim Be'ish, Ve'en Ritzia Be'isha. Right? Because it makes sense because there is no Simanim by a man, and there's no Ritzia by a woman. Be'im Isa, Be'isha. Right, and if you'd say Mia Mishkakasla, right, and if it was taka true that what's it called? That by a woman, right, that she would go out Mia Mishkakasla Arba. So Shmamina, right? So we see over here that and if it was true that if the master was one of them, that if he dies, right, then she also goes free, right? So it must be that this brisa is not talking about at all any of the masters dying or the father is dying. So therefore, it's not true. So another kasha. How could you go ahead and say that from a kavachomer once again that if the father dies, I just cough at the same time. How could you say the father's dying, the woman goes free? I see another kasha. Can't learn from a kavachomer. These are those you give gifts to. One who goes out after 6 years of working. Uva Yovel, one who goes out because of Yovel. The death of the master. Uva Ama Ivriya, the Simanim, and also Ama Ivriya, who shows physical signs of maturity. And if it's takasha that she goes through the death of the father, then you should give gifts then. And if you say, okay, they left out multiple cases, it says these are not others. The Gemara says, maybe left out others. Maybe it says, no, there's only certain types of things we're writing. The only things that have set time, but right, but things that don't have set time, like that doesn't. right? Simanim they not kitzva, b'ktani, right? It says simanim which don't have a set time. So the Gemara says I v'chite machinah safa is says maybe like Rav Safa that there is a set time because in other words it can only start at the age of 12. It mentions over there Mrs. Adon, which is not set. So Tiyufta the Reish Lakish Tiyufta. Therefore, it's a Bamkash and Tiyufta, and therefore you cannot learn his Kavachaimer. So Gemara says, "I Reish Lakish Kavachaimer," but Amar. So he says, "Abba Takira Kavachaimer." So Gemara says, "No, Kavachaimer Pircha. The Kavachaimer is a kash, right?" So what was the Kavachaimer? Right, the Kavachaimer was we said earlier, right on the previous page. Was that the Ama Ivria, right? It goes out, right, because of Simanim. It was learned from Simanim that she goes out from that, so too she goes out from this, right? So it says, what's the pircha here? So it says, because you can say like this, right? Ma'ala Simanim, Shenishtana Haguf, by Simanim, right? She has physical change in her body. But if her father dies, there's no change in her. So it's more logical to say that she goes free when her body changes because it's something that's physically on her versus the death of her father. Fine. So Tani Chada Anak Eved Ivri. So now a new subject. So it says case says Anak Eved Ivri the Atzmo. Right when one goes ahead and gives gifts. Right. So the Eved Ivri we give him to him. The Anak Ama Ivria when the Ama Ivria goes out the Atzmo we give him to her. The Tani, therefore, another bride says, "Anak Ama Ivria Mitziyasa Liavi." When you have another bride says, "The Ama Ivria," that not only that the gifts that go to her and any of her findings go Liaviha to her father, not to her. So the first bride says to her, the second bride says to her father, and also mentions if she finds lost objects. And being the rabbi, and therefore the lost objects go to her father. Therefore, the father must go ahead and compensate the master for her wasted time, but pick up lost objects and bring to her father. Now, my love, maybe it means that one is by siman. When she goes out with physical maturity, so that goes to her father. And when she goes out, when her father dies, she can't give it to her father. So that's the Bryce. That's the one she gets herself. I was like, no, we're talking about a case of where she went out because she turned 12. Like Kasha, it's not a Kasha. One of her father is alive, the other one her father's alive. Both times she went out because of Simana. So I understand the case of Anagama Ivriya when we give her the stuff of Miyute Achin. To exclude the brothers, now she gets it and not her brothers. The time when her Bible says, the pasuk says, "You should bequeath them down to your sons after you." So no, they go to your sons, but not the daughters. Their rights don't go to your sons. And from here, he doesn't give the chus that the sons that he has to his daughter to his sons. In other words, therefore, the things that the father was going to get because of the daughter, the brothers don't get that. So therefore, he over there is a chiddush to say that the brother that she gets to keep it and not the brothers if he dies. Ella anak, right? But the case of anak that we say over there, the atzmo was it Dayanin? Was it Ella anak? Yeah, not yet, sure. So Eved right? So we say so. Ella anak Eved so going to tell us that when Eved goes free, that he gets the gifts. So pshit, that's obvious, right? Elaman, who else will get it? It's not like he's in his father's rishus, right? So Amar Rav Yosef. So Yudkar is Chazina, right? It's a small unit turns into a large city. In other words, yeah, they didn't need to write this. It's completely actual. There's no chiddush there. And however, others say no. Abai Omar no. Hakim Rav Sheshes Homani. Who is this? This is Tutai. This is the Tana of his name is Tutai. The Tani Tutai Omer. Lo, it says v'lo lo b'chav. We give him the gifts, and we know Shibuda the Rav Nasan. Let's say this guy Eved Ivri owes someone else money. That the gifts, you don't just go ahead and skip the Eved Ivri and give it to the guy who is creditor. You give it to him, and he still gets the gifts. But Gufa. So Elam Anikin Lahed. This is what we saw earlier. Hayaytze b'shanim one who goes out for 6 years. V'yayvo or v'yayvo means the death of the master. Am Ivri b'simanim. Am Ivri b'simanim. About boreach the yaitze beginning kesef. But one who goes ahead and flees, or one who goes ahead and gets he pays back and uses credit from time served. Ein manikin lo. They do not go ahead and get gifts. No, a person who flees, he doesn't get gifts. However, but one who does go ahead and pay off he gets gifts. Rabbi Shimon says, no, Arba, there's actually, we saw this earlier, Arba, Manikin, there's 4 categories, Manikin Lam, Shleisha Be'ish, 3 apply to a man and 3 apply to a woman. And you can't say the male or female here, there's 4. Now, if you Simon Be'ish, because there is no Simon Be'ish, and there is no Retias Be'ish, and a woman cannot go ahead and stay beyond her 6 years. Now, we know, honey, Millie, how do we know this earlier that they get Manikim, that the people get gifts? So Tarabanan Yachli Manikin El Liyatse B'Sheish. You might think, since the pasuk is talking about it, only the people who get gifts, people who work for 6 years. How do we know that people who leave because of Yovel or because the master dies that they get? Also, the Amivriya who saw physical signs of maturity that they get gifts. Therefore, it says the extra words in the pasuk Tashichenu v'chi tishachenu. Right, it's the shechenu twice and the vav v'chi. Right, so it adds multiple people. It adds also not only work 6 years. But Yovel, that the master, and Siman. And Yachla Marba, Barech, Vietzbigon Kasev. You might think also include a person who runs away, or a Giron Kasev, Tamalemar, Vachis, Shechenu, Chavshi, Me'amcha. Misha Shilucha, Me'amcha, Yatza, right? So therefore, only someone who goes back to your Amcha, to the people, Yatza Barech, Vietzbigon Kasev, Shein Shilucha, excuse me, Me'imach, not Me'amcha, Me'imach, from you. In other words, you send them away. But someone goes ahead and pays up their credit earlier, right? You didn't send them away; they send themselves away. Someone ran away; they send themselves away. Therefore, you didn't say it because Hashem shilucha meimach. And Rameir Barech Emanikolo Dein shilucha meimach, right? He's not being sent from him. So he goes ahead and he does get gifts. So Barech Hashem boy. If he runs away, and all of a sudden he sees him like a year later, he says, "Hey, dude, right? You owe me 4 more years." Right? The time of the Bible, how do you he has to go ahead and work 6 years. You only work 2. I need another 4. Maybe he was sick, he couldn't work, right? He was bedridden for multiple years. So therefore, no, sickness, that the 7th year he goes free. No, that he gets credit for. And so Yaakov, so Amrav, so what do you see over here? So right, so we see in this case that that even in this case is Yaitze B'Shvis, right? So therefore, all right, so he gets credit. So therefore, maybe in this case that the Boreach, right? How could you go ahead and so you see that the Boreach has to fill it. So the Boreach has to go ahead and complete his years, right? And when he completes his years, you have to give him gifts. Right? He doesn't have to be mashlim. Why? Because the yovel happened, right? And therefore, he says, okay, you owe me 2 more years. He said, yeah, you're right. I would owe you 2 more years, but it's yovel, and therefore, I'm done for good, and therefore, I'm not going to go ahead and have to work the other years. Maybe you have to go ahead and give him. Maybe since it's yovel, that's the reason why he doesn't have to be mashlim. Therefore, to say, and therefore he's not punished. We give him gifts. Mashmalon, that he doesn't get gifts because he ran away, even though Yovel technically ends his obligation of servitude. Nevertheless, since he ran away, he does not get any gifts, and we will stop here. Everybody have a wonderful day. Shkech.